Hi guys, so today, in today's video, I'm just going to quickly walk you through how I patterned and made the mock-up for my alphabet dress. So here it is, not quite finished yet. I still have to finish the hem, and obviously I still need to make the shirt, which I am working out the patterning on still. I did find a pattern on Etsy that actually has a very similar silhouette. I have to make a mock-up, and then I have to do some fitting because it likely will be a little bit too loose, so I'm going to have to make it so that it's a little bit more fitted and pattern the sleeves and make all of the pleating, all of that stuff. I'm going to record all of that, but I have no idea when I'm going to get to it, so it is forthcoming. But today I'm going to walk you through how I patterned this, what I did record, because some of it got cut off because my battery died, but what I did record for how I patterned it and how I fit the mock-up. So I hope you guys enjoy, and I look forward to seeing you again next time I post a video. I will be off next week. I am taking the week off for Thanksgiving to try to catch up and get some stuff done editing wise, because I'm really behind on my editing. So I'm going to try and do all of that. So I hope you guys have a happy Thanksgiving, and I will see you the week after. And I used a tutorial from the Closet Historian on how to create a princess seam from a bodice block. She has lots of tutorials on her channel, and she is a much more experienced pattern maker than me. So here I am also trying to adjust the neckline, because my bodice block's neckline obviously is much higher, and the bodice in the movie, she has a very kind of low cut bodice on there because she has a shirt underneath it. So here you can see this is the pattern that I used, and I'm just doing, I'm fixing the full bust adjustment because I did not previously lower the bust point, and you have to lower that because otherwise it won't fit you right, where you add more. So for the full bust adjustment, you add more volume to the bust, because this pattern is designed, I think, for like a B cup and a sewing B cup, and I am not a sewing B cup. So I added more volume to the bust, but then you also need to lower it, because in general, if you have more volume in the bust, you need to lower the bust or the bust point or the apex. So in order to do that, I followed a tutorial by lifting pins and needles, and I'll link the tutorials in the description. McCall's pattern with princess seams that I had previously done a full bust adjustment on. So I used that along with my bodice block in order to make it have straps. Once I figured out what I was doing as far as making it into a princess seam top, then it was much easier for me to use the pattern that I already had ready to go. And once I lowered the apex point on that side, I had to match it up and lower it on the other side so that it would match when the seams were sewn together. So once I finished with the full bust adjustment and moving the apex, I messed around with the pattern to try to figure out how I was going to create straps on this, because this original pattern has either spaghetti straps with like a sweetheart neckline or like cap sleeves that are attached with elastic. So I obviously needed to change that, because that's not how the bodice looks in the movie, and that's not how the neckline is in the movie either. So I played around with this for a little bit and then messed around with the bodice block, and eventually I went ahead and followed a tutorial by the Closet Historian on how to make your bodice block into a princess seam. So once I figured all of that out, it was time for me to finally make a mock-up. So you guys can see this is my mock-up, and it's actually really big on me. I took in a bunch of the seams to try to figure out exactly how much I wanted. And I think in this particular mock-up here, I have it overlapped just a little too much in the front because I probably could have taken out even more. It is ginormous on me. And the skirt was a little too full, which I think we had talked about in the live, but this was my first mock-up, and then the second mock-up was actually the lining that became the lining of the dress. So I was able to just reuse that, which was nice, and change the pattern for the actual outer fabric. So it was nice to actually save some of the fabric. But yeah, so I made some modifications to the pattern before the live, and then during the live I actually made even more modifications to the pattern. You can see here that I have to open the armhole up just a little bit because it's a little too tight there, so I also did that. So once I got the bit that I wanted, now I'm going to cut out all the seam allowances like such. I've cut the seam allowances off, so this is going to be my new pattern piece with no seam allowance. I'm going to copy those onto my pattern pieces, and that way I can have new pattern pieces. So this is the other way that I was talking about during my live stream, that you can do your pattern pieces. However, I actually prefer the other way because I feel like this way you have to kind of manipulate it. It slides around a lot. It can be kind of a pain in the butt. Also, if your pattern includes seam allowances, it does make it a little bit more difficult, which you can see I was struggling with here. I ended up just going ahead and tracing out these pattern pieces that I had cut out. I traced them onto a piece of pattern paper, and then I added seam allowance back to them, and then I went ahead and traced them onto here and cut off what I needed. So that made it just a little bit easier for me because I was having a lot of trouble with figuring out where I wanted it. You know, it was already cut some of the places I didn't make any changes to, so it was a little bit difficult. So that was what I ended up doing in the end. thank you guys again for watching. I hope you enjoyed watching some of me patterning this dress, and I hope you guys will go back and watch the live stream. If you did not already see it, I will link that in the description, and I will probably post a short once I actually finish this dress with a reveal. So I hope you guys have a happy Thanksgiving, and I will see you guys the week after Thanksgiving.